Hey Rebel, welcome to Untoxify Your Relationship. Here we will talk about all things healthy and how to get that toxic mess out of you and your partnership. I'm your host, Melissa Webb, a practicing licensed mental health therapist with 10 years experience. I've been on a journey encouraging women to throw the middle finger up at society and to become a rebel, to go against the grain of who and what you are supposed to be and grow into what God has created you to be. And I do this by teaching them skills to cultivate stronger relationships through healthy theology and mental health practices. All right, let's go ahead and hop into it. Hey y'all, it's your girl and welcome to episode 12. This episode is going to be a little different because we got a little bit of fan mail. That's right, someone wrote to me and wants me to answer their question. So here I am about to answer a question, and you can do the same. So if you have a question that you want to ask me, check out the email that's in the show notes and you can send me a question. I can answer it on the pod. So here's the question. It says, Dear Melissa, how do I know if I am being too forgiving in my relationship? We argue from time to time and it gets pretty heated, but we're always able to talk about it. I thought everything was fine until one day a friend mentioned that we argue too much. We probably argue weekly, and I just think it's because we're both stressed. I thought that because we talked through it that we were good, but should I be concerned? How do I know if it's too much, too often, or too intense? I've had to ask myself whether my high level of tolerance for arguing is healthy or not. Signed, a concerned arguer. That's a lot of questions to answer. Kind of need a little bit more information. It's kind of vague. However, I'm going to do my best to answer this question. So I guess the main question is, should I be concerned that we argue weekly and we talk through it? My answer is it depends. It depends on a couple of things. It depends on how you guys are arguing. What conclusions are you guys coming to in these arguments? Are these repeated arguments? And how is the conflict making you feel in your relationship? First, how are you guys arguing? Because we know communication is key. So we can either use a toxic voice or a non-toxic voice. And the toxic voice sounds like yelling and screaming, a lot of blaming, so a lot of you statements, so you did this, you did that. Stonewalling, manipulation, threatening statements, verbal attacking, passive-aggressive or aggressive communication, and avoiding the issue. This is just some things, this is not a full list. However, if you're using these toxic communication styles, then yeah, the arguments will never really get resolved because using these styles don't really resolve anything. They're like temporary resolvement. So like you use like manipulation, you might get what you want this time, but you're manipulating your partner and creating an unhealthy space. So non-toxic voice is I statements, assertive communication, being calm and reserved, addressing the actual issue, pausing throughout the conversation, and repeating back what the person said. So like, what I'm hearing is this. What I think you said is this. Can you help me to understand? So those types of phrases. And when you're using your non-toxic voice, you're listening to your partner, you're listening to understand, not listening to respond. And you want to know what the issue is so that way you can solve it and move forward. And also you're able to express how you feel and what you need in these conversations. Another thing I wonder, concerned arguer, is if you guys are communicating your boundaries. Anytime you're having a tough conversation, it's okay to set boundaries. So that can look like in the beginning, just stating, hey, I want to have a tough conversation about XYZ. Are you in a space so that way we can discuss this? Or even setting the time when you guys can discuss it. Also, throughout the conversation, if anytime you feeling triggered or you feel like it's too much, it's okay to bow out and say, hey, I'm not feeling this right now. I'm starting to get triggered. Can we have this conversation another time? And then set a time and date when you guys can resume this conversation. So these are the boundaries that you can set in these tough conversations or disagreements or whatever you want to call them. So that way things can stay healthy and you know your level of tolerance, and you know, like, once you get beyond that threshold, it might not look good. Because I know for me, if I get beyond a threshold, I'm cussing people out. We don't want that, especially if we want to use our non-toxic voice. And communication also includes body language, posture, and tone. So make sure that your body language, posture, and tone are inviting and not threatening or pushing someone away. So ask yourself, are we arguing with our toxic voice or non-toxic voice? And that will kind of help you to understand if you guys are arguing too much. The next one is, what type of conclusions are you guys coming to in these arguments? And these are two things that I see usually when people argue. Like, usually people agree to change or they're agreeing to disagree. And what I mean by agreeing to change are things actually changing. So if you guys have a discussion or a tough conversation about something that needs to change, and both parties agree, like, okay, this is what we're going to do moving forward with changing. And then the one person in the one party, your partner, doesn't change. And that becomes more tough conversation of, okay, you said you was going to change and then we're not seeing change. So I guess the question is, are both parties following through with their end of the bargain? Or is it one person who don't agree to the terms, right? So if that partner is not doing what they're supposed to do, then that can also become a conversation of, okay, so why are we not doing this? So I don't know if those are the type of arguments you and your partner are having, or is it you guys are agreeing to disagree, which is pretty healthy. It's okay to agree to disagree, because at the end of the day, we all don't think alike, and that's quite all right. I think now in this world, I would just say in America, because that's where I live, there's this thing where if I don't agree with you, then I don't like you, and I totally don't agree with that. It's okay for everybody to like different things, and you might actually learn something if you go talk to the person who you don't agree with and just see like their point of view and how they got to that conclusion. And that's totally okay. You don't have to like the same things people like, but you do have to respect people. And I do think that is a huge thing that we're missing. It's okay to agree to disagree. And I also want respect. Sorry, that was a whole rant. Let me get back to the letter. Sometimes what I see with couples, the problem is that they don't accept their partner for who they are. Or they don't accept their partner for disliking what they like. Again, that's a problem. You don't have to make them like what you like or constantly be like, that's stupid. Now, if it's something that's one of your non-negotiables, that's something totally different. And hopefully, asking like, is this something we can come to a compromise, and then go from there. So going back to the letter, I don't know if someone between you and your partner, I don't know if you guys are not agreeing with the conclusions, and there seems to be continuing arguing with the conclusions that you guys are coming to. If so, go back and see if you all can come to some type of compromise and something that you both can agree on to help you guys move forward and not continue to have these same arguments every week. Next question I have is this a repeated argument? Is it the same shit, just a different day? Then go back to the conclusions. Like, what conclusions are you all coming up with in these arguments? And if it's the same thing over and over and over again, you all may need to come to a consensus of, let's figure out another way we can solve this issue between us. And then also, what's the pattern? In the letter, you mentioned that both you guys are stressed. Are you guys arguing about the stressful stuff that you guys are going through? Are arguments happening after work? Does one partner start these arguments? So these are the questions I have. And if those things are true, then maybe you all need to have a conversation about maybe going to get some help with de-stressing, maybe taking a trip together. Hopefully you all can de-stress together. But start seeing if there's any patterns happening. And if so, then if you find out what the pattern is, you can stop it and stop the repeated arguing. And then lastly, how are these arguments making you feel in the relationship? I think this is probably the most important question, because if you feel like you're not safe and you can't bring up certain topics, then that's a problem. So just remember, how do you feel when you all keep having these arguments? Now, if you don't feel safe, like physically, and you feel like your life's in danger, definitely get out. If you don't feel emotionally safe, that's a conversation to have with your partner. You mentioned in your letter that I had to ask myself whether my high level of tolerance for arguing is healthy or not. And that doesn't sound healthy, that you have a high level of arguing. You might want to take a step back and definitely look at yourself and say, why do I have a high tolerance of arguing? Where does that come from? Because that's not normal to have a high tolerance of arguing, or always having a high tolerance of drama every week. So that's another question to ask you, like, why am I used to this? And is that okay? So just to recap, some things to remember when you are arguing or having a tough conversation with your partner. Remember, watch your tone, watch the words that you use, set boundaries if you need to, take breaks, take pause, because pauses are good, okay? Remember, it's okay to pause in a conversation. You don't always have to be responding right away. Sometimes it's better to just pause and think before you start talking. And, make sure there is some type of resolution, whether it's you all are agreeing to disagree or agreeing to do something else. Make sure that both parties understand their part when it comes to the resolution, and then also make sure that there's follow through. And if you all agree to disagree, that's also okay too. Remember to accept your partner for who they are and what they agree to. If you cannot, if that's like a huge problem, you like, ooh, I really don't agree with that, then you got to think about, am I supposed to be in this relationship? Like, really think about, especially if it's one of your non-negotiables, really think about, am I supposed to still be here? And that's only a question you can answer. And how does these arguments make you feel? Are they making you feel like you're not supposed to be there? Are they making you feel unsafe? Or is it just that you just like, we talk about it, so we should be okay? I think there's more than just we talk about it and we should be okay, because it sounds like there's no resolution, concerned arguer that you all are coming to, and maybe that's why you all keep arguing every week. And that also sounds exhausting. I don't know about you. I don't want to keep arguing with my partner every week. I want some peace. Ask yourself, is this relationship peaceful, or do I need to go find my peace somewhere else? So many questions that you probably need to ask yourself. So that's all I got. I hope that answered your question again. For you guys out there listening, again, feel free to send me your questions. I will put the email address in the show notes. Thanks for listening. We drop a new episode every Monday. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. Share this with your auntie, your uncle, your mama, and your cousin and them. And again, I will see you next time. All right, peace. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and share this episode with your family and friends. Don't forget to take the quiz on my website to figure out which Beyonce song matches your toxic trait. Go ahead and check it out at the-rebelution.com. That's THE-REBELUTION.com. Thanks, and see you next time.